For more on what's happening on the ground in China, let's bring in David Rennie. He's Beijing bureau chief at The Economist and author of their Chengguan column. David, good to have you here this morning. You know, we sit here and look at the way the financial markets have behaved this week and almost acting as if we've sort of gotten past perhaps the worst of the spread of the virus. Perhaps the trajectory has changed. And yet it seems like there are still additional measures being placed restricting people's movements and business activity over there. What is the latest in terms of how people are reacting to the government's mandates, and where are we in that process of figuring out when people will go back out and start to participate in the world there?
So the next couple of days is when it's really going to become real. Remember, we've had the Chinese New Year, which is a bit like kind of Christmas and Thanksgiving rolled into one. So until now, the fact that everything is very quiet and a lot of people are off work has been more or less normal. It's just gone a little bit longer than usual. But as of Monday, tens of millions of people are meant to go back to work. And I think they're going to find that the cities where they work and live look anything but normal. You know, still, this place is basically on lockdown. Restaurants, shops, coffee shops, basically locked down. There's hardly any traffic. The trains are empty. People are very frightened. So that's the economic impact. I think we're really going to see that kicking in when people come back from the holidays. And the social and the political crisis is also deepening because it's not just those deaths numbers that you've said, which are tragically going higher. We've also had a very big impact today, the death of a whistleblowing doctor from the epicenter, Wuhan, Li Wenliang. We're seeing a sort of unprecedented anger on the already heavily censored Chinese social media. Hundreds of millions of posts talking about how furious they are with the government. This doctor who died, unfortunately, of the coronavirus, having reported it, having been punished by the police for reporting it, is now being held up as a martyr. And that is really politically explosive stuff.
David, Jason Trenner here. I was wondering if you can comment on the impact in terms of the economy, in terms of the government's response. Do you think we can derive anything in terms of the seriousness of the disease? Or is it simply the fact that China wants to become a major player, major geopolitical player? You have social media, you have other things now which are going on, which are forcing them to have a much greater response than they might have had 5 or 10 years ago. Can we derive anything from the government's response in terms of the severity of the disease?
So you're absolutely right that China is a much bigger player in the global economy. I mean, if you think of just, even a sector like tourism, the last time we had a really serious virus, the SARS virus in 2003, the fact that Chinese tourists didn't turn up in the rest of the world was, you could notice it if you really paid attention. Now, Chinese tourism, just to name one sector, Chinese airline flights, the fact that they're all being cancelled, that hit is just so much larger to the global economy because the room that China takes up in the global economy is so much larger. Then you're into supply chains. China is no longer the workshop of the world making, tennis shoes and sneakers and plastic buckets. It's making smartphones. It's making very high-end technology. So, all of those high-tech supply chains, if this drags on, and it's months, not weeks, of the kind of really extreme disruption that we're seeing, not only will there be an immediate hit to the global economy because everyone's supply chains will be disrupted. But I think you're starting to see people think, wow, if they have to get used to not having China in their tech supply chains, will they get very used and start looking elsewhere? So we could see that larger question of decoupling between the rest of the world and China being massively accelerated if this goes on too long.